So without further ado, I guess we'll get started on our first item of the agenda with some tool and resource demonstrations. So we've had another great crop of developments since our meeting in December, and we'll be using a good portion of our time today to interactively go over some of these tools and resources. So first up, I would like to welcome Eddie Coppinger from National Advice Portal. It's great to welcome you here today, Eddie, and this is a project that's aimed at providing community organizations access to specialist solicitors. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Hi, folks. The advice portal is principally aimed at supporting generalist advice agencies to undertake specialist legal casework. Users must register to access the portal. This allows us to target the portal where it's needed most. Our work focuses on the most vulnerable, and a great deal of our casework is on behalf of people who have complex health and social needs. It's therefore important to us that technology we use does not add to barriers that they face. We embrace the use of new technology, but in a way that is very mindful of the realities of people's lives. Our view on the use of technology is to use it to provide access to specialist lawyers rather than elude them. The advice portal in part includes an electronic booking system aimed at targeted community advice agencies and other key stakeholders. Each week, advice slots on specific critical legal matters are made available. Key matters include non-molestation orders and disability benefit appeals. Advice workers can book an appointment to seek support from us to progress a case themselves, or they can make a referral by appointment for us to advise someone directly. A big issue for our sector is a lack of second-tier support and an inability to access specialist legal support and casework services, especially on time-sensitive matters. Our portal helps address this by providing direct access. Through the portal, community advice workers are also able to access self-help information and professional development support. We have obtained substantial funding from the National Lottery Community Fund to make our portal available to advice deserts England-wide. This went live at the beginning of October. We're able to cope with the large number of assistance requests because we have linked the portal to our London-based pro bono resource. We're partnered up with 22 international law firms, and we've trained over 1,000 pro bono minded lawyers in secondary specialisms. And in terms of the portal, we're also interested in using it as a scaffold to develop regional partnerships, especially with university legal advice projects. So it's relatively straightforward. You can just go to our website, www.legaladvicecentre.london. It's one of the first things you'll see, and it has a frequently asked questions element, plus the how to go about registering. And in the chat, I'll repeat the website and also my email address for those who want to sort of ask further questions. But that's it really. It's relatively straightforward idea and concept, and it's up and running, and we hope that colleagues will make use of it. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Eddie. We'll just take a moment here if anybody had any questions for Eddie that they wanted to ask at this time. I see there's one in the chat from Jan Thomas. Is there a charge for this service?
No, it's completely free.
Thank you. Did anyone else have Shalale?
Hi, we are funded by the Access to Justice Fund to assist people in ethics at court. Now, I know that that's quite far down the line, but we also have a Facebook resource that is independent of ATJF funding, but it's nationally available, because we find county councils normally fund us for helping their residents for 30 to 60 minutes free advice. But we've got a Facebook page that's got lots of specific groups, and those groups, anyone in the country, anyone in the world can come in there, post a question, they join the group, post a question, and they can do so anonymously. And one of our lawyers will answer it normally within 24 hours. We don't say always, because our lawyers don't work on the weekends. And thanks to the ATJF, we're actually going to expand that, because we're going to use we're going to use some of the volunteers we have who are post LPC students, their answers, which will be reviewed by our lawyers, so that we're hoping to sort of expand that offering beyond working hours, sort of thing. So that's a remote way of assistance. All our lawyers, one of our lawyers is currently training, but we hope by the end of this year, all our lawyers would have specially trained to deal with people, with vulnerable people, with mental health issues, etc. So certainly, as a firm, we'll be well up on that. So do please, if we've got a resource that can help people without them having to wait too long for an appointment or whatever, do direct them to that, because it does exist.
Thank you so much for that. Well, next, I'm really pleased to welcome Hugh Evans, who will be presenting on the Advisor's Toolbox, which is a software designed to assist with benefits advice, and it's intended for professional advisors, and it provides a dynamically customized list of questions for the advisor to consider. So Hugh, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so hello everyone, I'm Hugh Evans and I'm the director of a company called the Advisor's Toolbox. I'm here today to showcase the software I've been developing. I was originally going to do a sort of an actual demo of the software because it is live, but I realized that spending next sort of 10 minutes or so just filling in an online form perhaps isn't the best use of everyone's time. So I've made this presentation that sort of shows off the features and explains what it's all about. But I'm happy to do actual demos on an individual basis as well if people would like that. So the purpose of this software is to help with QA issues associated with the documentation of advice. That is to say, this is for the advice sector, not the legal sector. As I see it, there's two different issues that stem from a lack of structure in case notes when advisors come to write up their cases after the interview. The first issue is that case notes without a structure can fail to meet QA standards required for the advice quality standard stamp, even if the advice itself is correct, and obviously that has knock-on effects on the service as a whole. And secondly, case notes can sometimes appear to be correct, but in fact the advice that was given was unhelpful or incomplete at the end of the interview. Now, I think this second issue doesn't come up very much, though perhaps still more than we would like. But the first issue, as I understand it, is actually quite common. So the software I'm developing and have developed is really aimed to help with this first issue. So the software looks like this. This is intended to help with universal credit applications, and in particular highlighting potential issues with new claims before they turn into actual issues that impact the client. So you can see there's a series of drop-down menus presented to the advisor, and some of which you can actually see on the left of this slide. Now, the questions that are entered into these menus do two things. They add the case notes that you can see on the right, and they also manipulate the question list by adding in follow-on questions. So this should sort of give a complete a picture of what's actually happened, what the client situation is when they present. The questions here about legacy benefits have been added in response to the question at the top. So normally those questions don't appear. They only appear if the question about legacy benefit has been answered. Yes, there are legacy benefits being received, and then you get these extra questions added in. So you can see it's a sort of dynamic form. there's also date entry boxes and money entry boxes that can be added in for just to give a full picture of what's actually happening. Finally, there's a request advice button at the foot of the page, and this validates the inputs to make sure that it's all sort of internally consistent with itself, and it also fetches potential next steps or options from the server. So you can see these are the actual options that can be presented to the client at the end of the interview. If I mean, sometimes the advisor might want to sort of second guess these, but it does have a sort of look at what options are actually available for the client moving forward. The entire set of case notes can be downloaded as a .text file or copied to the clipboard, and then the advisor can check them, amend them if they need to, and upload them to their case management system. So the goal here is to improve the quality of case notes and lead to better QA scores. It should also reduce the time required to complete a set of case notes, for an interview, and it prompts new advisors into asking the right questions without having to consult supervisors as frequently. I'd like to stress that this is not a sort of exactly a normal web form. So a normal web form in the background is actually trying to collect information into a database, and that's really not what this form is about. So well, normally you might have the browser send everything to the server processes the data, and the database collects the data. This form isn't doing that. What it's actually doing is the browser is sending very limited data to the server processes that data, but doesn't actually store it. It doesn't tell the database anything about it, and it just sends back to the browser the information. And this is really about giving information and empowering the person filling in the form to use their own data more effectively rather than collecting data my end. So I designed this solution specifically to ensure that no personally identifiable data reaches my server at all. That's all handled browser side, if at all. And the data that's sent to the server is actually discarded. I'm not logging the API calls that as they hit the server. This is to ensure confidentiality of the client. It also means that you don't need a data sharing agreement to be in place between your clients and yourselves, consenting to the processing of data or storing of data at our end. Really, the whole structure of this software is designed with confidentiality in mind. I'm currently developing a new tool, partly based on feedback, and I'm developing this together with a local citizens advice office. This general advice tool is intended to provide a structure for case notes, but it's less ambitious in that it won't be suggesting options for the client to take at the end. It also contains free text boxes to allow for more flexibility in the actual case notes themselves, but the data entered here is never sent to my server. If it's a free text box, you just know it's not being sent to my server. And that's again for confidentiality reasons. I'm hoping to have this software finished sometime in April. Here you can see it's actually a consumer issue being written up, so it's providing a sort of broader spectrum of write-up templates. So please do get in touch if you'd like a full demo of the software, and I am offering free trials of this software at the moment. I'm keen to get as many people on board as I can, and at the moment it's far more crucial that for me that I actually get people using this software than I get people paying for the software. So yes, free trials definitely available. My email's here in the slide. I'll put it in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Hugh. Again, we're going to just take a moment for questions. I see one in the chat from Lucy Royal Dawson. It says, can completed fields be saved and returned to later if needed to take a break?
Sorry, I completed fields be saved? So you can leave the browser page open, but you can't actually save the document until you get to the end. The reason for this is that, as I say, that I'm not actually storing any of this on the server. So whatever's in the browser is discarded at the end of the session. It's a sort of deliberate choice in a way. I mean, I understand that it would be useful to have fields saved, but at the moment it's not possible, just because I'm trying to retain absolute confidentiality of the client if the software is being used.
Thank you. We have another question here from Jacob Pritchard. Are there set inquiry areas?
Yeah, so the first software is aimed specifically at new claims for universal credit. The second piece of software, the general advice software, there are set inquiry areas, which are the ones you would expect. So we've got housing, we've got benefits claims, we've got benefits issues further down the line, consumer relationship breakdown, and so on. However, I'm actually trying to change. I've actually had some feedback from the Citizens Advice Office saying they'd like it to be a bit more freeform in case there's multiple issues. So what I'm going to do with this new piece of software is, if you'll start off by selecting a inquiry area, but once you have selected that inquiry area, it will then be possible to add in bespoke topics that are pertinent to the actual full picture of what's going on. So it's a little bit more freeform than just set inquiry areas, but you start from a set inquiry area.
Thank you. Martha, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a really quick one. So obviously you're in kind of a testing and development phase now. Do you have any kind of idea on the timeline or where you'd like to get to in kind of the next 6 to 9 months? And if there's anything else specific we can do other than just use it if we get an opportunity to?
Yeah, I'm certainly keen to have anyone give feedback on this if they're able to. I'm very keen to have feedback on it, because obviously if there's a mistake somewhere in either piece of software and I'm not aware of it, that's obviously a problem for me as much as it's a problem for anyone. Yeah. We have another question in the chat. Is there scope for developing APIs so the tool could be embedded into existing case management systems? Yes, there definitely is. The reason I haven't done that is I don't have a close enough relationship with any particular organization running a case management system to really implement that at the moment. But yes, in theory, there's no reason this couldn't be embedded into a case management system. Yeah, I'd be keen to talk about that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hugh, and thank you to everyone who had questions. Feel free to continue to put them in the chat, and Hugh, if you could just be responding to some that come your way in the chat, that would be great.
Certainly, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to move on to our next presenter. Next up, we're welcoming Francine Ryan and John Paul Knight from the Open University, who will be presenting on virtual reality courtroom. So this is the platform that brings together technology and law to enable immersive and active learning to take place in a practical setting. The virtual courtroom will provide a flexible, innovative environment to facilitate students' learning. So why don't you both go ahead and take it away? Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much. Thank you for the opportunity to come along. So my name's Francine Ryan. I'm a senior lecturer at the Open University, and I'm joined by my colleague John Paul Knight, who is our Open Justice Manager. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background as to kind of how we've come to this point and kind of why we're here today. So I'm currently the director of the Open Justice Centre, and we organise pro bono activities for our students to put into practice their legal knowledge. So we run in traditional ways that universities do. We have law clinics and a whole range of different projects. But because we're the Open University and sometimes known as the University of the Air, we're also really interested in technology and how it can be used to facilitate our students' learning, but also how it could be used in a sort of an access to justice space. So we've worked previously sort of leveraging our expertise in terms of distance learning to develop open educational resources with a number of organisations within the free advice sector. And we've always used technology with our students. So we started off with a virtual law clinic right from the start, from the beginning of our inception. And we've sort of dabbled in virtual reality a little bit throughout the last few years. So we built a virtual reality app for our students to go into to practice doing presentations in prisons and in school settings. So it was a virtual reality app that allowed them to, with a headset, to kind of go into a virtual room that looked like a prison setting or a school and practice doing presentations. And from the learning of that, we've always been interested in developing a virtual reality courtroom. So we looked around the globe, and there is an amazing virtual courtroom tour that has been developed in Colorado with Northeastern University. That project is incredible, but they had a lot more money than we had. So we had a relatively limited budget, but we wanted to develop this virtual courtroom that was more than just a courtroom tour. So it has the ability to give a sort of a tour of a kind of a courtroom, and it uses a platform called Unity. It's kind of has some sort of similarities to kind of gaming kind of concepts. So it's not this kind of 3D most amazing kind of thing, but it does look, we hope, like a courtroom. It's the first iteration of the project that we've developed, but alongside it having a virtual courtroom, in terms of having a tour of a courtroom where you can interact with objects and find out about a courtroom, it also has something, a kind of another element to it, which is what we call mooting. And that's what law students do in terms of practicing courtroom advocacy. And so we developed it so it has a multiplayer purpose, so students can come into the courtroom together and do like a mock trial or a moot, and work together. But the reason that we're kind of here today is that we think this has kind of got benefits beyond our students, and we're really interested in whether or not this could be something that would be useful for helping litigants in person and organisations supporting litigants in person, in terms of them preparing them for a trial or going to court, getting them familiar with courtrooms, and also potentially practicing doing courtroom advocacy themselves. So we're just going to do a little, we've got a short video that gives a little sort of demonstration of what it looks like, and then I'll just talk a little bit after that about kind of our next steps and how people might want to be able to assist. So I'm going to pass over to
just an overview of the courtroom. This is just a map of what the courtroom looks like. Skip through something. You first arrive in this lobby for the virtual courtroom, and students get to sort of orientate themselves in terms of how they can navigate their way around the courtroom. It's the waiting room. There's some sort of ambient sounds as well that people can hear when they go into this courtroom. They can hear papers shuffling, people murmuring and things like that. You'll see these little eye information icons up here. When you click on one of those, it gives you information about what that thing or that part of the courtroom does. So these little information things are obviously what we came up with that we thought would be useful for people, but these can be adapted to whatever you would want anyone to know about a courtroom or about the particular courtroom that you've designed. This brings you to either the court usher or the court secretary, gives a little bit of information about them. And then we see the hallways with the different rooms, and the different rooms at the moment are the courtroom and the judges' chambers. So I'll show you a little bit of the judges' chambers. But these rooms can be adapted or added to in the future with different types of courtrooms or different types of meeting rooms, interview rooms, etc. So this is the courtroom itself. Now, anyone that enters, this is in the tour mode at the moment rather than the booting mode. But if you were in there with a group of students or a group of people, then you'd see them and their avatars sitting around the rooms. So somebody can play the judge if they want to. There is and you just navigate around these rooms with a mouse or a joystick or a keyboard or something. You don't need a headset or anything like that to navigate this, as Francine was saying. You can look at the court with 2 different viewpoints as well. So you can sit on the judge's seat and see the rest of the room, and you'll be able to see the avatar of the people in there. We have another court hallway with some bits of information up on the walls, different images, different photos of legal related topics. So visitors can browse these and click on them, just find out more about the legal profession, etc. And I'll just show you the judges' chambers, and then we'll probably stop it there for the. Following the court hallway back towards the living room. So yeah, I'll just show you this as a sort of a version of a breakout room that people can use. Okay, yes, this is the judges' chambers. So again, this is a separate room that people can use to have discussions in, interview clients in, etc. With a bit more information up on the walls about different people and legal issues. So yeah, this is just a sort of example of a room that you can have as a breakout room to the courtroom. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and go back to Francine.
Thanks, JP. So in terms of, so that's our kind of the tour part of it, which is somebody can do individually, but then there's a separate way you can go through. So you can have you can name a courtroom and multiple people can join. Up to 16 people at the moment can join a courtroom at one time, and you don't see the information icons or the avatars that you've just seen in that view. You select yourself as an avatar. So we have different avatars that you can choose. You can customize and personalize them, and they can wear different kind of costumes, like effectively like a judge's kind of robe or a business suit, etc. And you can do your hair. There's a whole different list of characteristics. But then when you go into the courtroom, when you're doing the kind of the advocacy part of it, your head effectively is a bit like, if you can see me on a screen now, you can see your head and you can see you can see somebody's individual features. It isn't an avatar head. So your body is an avatar, but your head is you, so you can see you. So you can see, just like I'm doing now, I wave my hands around all the time, you can see that. And that was a really important thing that we wanted to do in creating this kind of the advocacy part of the courtroom, so that if you're in there doing you're practicing doing some sort of advocacy, you can see directly the judge, you can turn and face somebody next to you, you can stand side by side with somebody, and you can read body language just like you would do if you were in a real face-to-face setting. So this is we have a first iteration of the courtroom. It's not perfect. It's a first kind of build. We've been testing it with law students, and we're currently testing it with a law firm as well. And we just really wanted to share it today, just to say this is what we're involved in doing. And if there are organisations that might be interested in kind of working with us to do a bit of testing and a bit of piloting, because we know it's not perfect. We know it needs things things done to it. We think it's got a lot of potential, but obviously, you know, these kind of things, when you have different types of using, you've got different type of user needs, then we need to get feedback on the areas that we need to develop it. So that's the reason for coming along today and sharing it, and hoping that maybe people might be interested in having further conversations with us. So thanks very much for your time.
I noticed there was a comment there from Lynn about the accessibility of the, I mean, obviously there's all sorts of accessibility issues related to this that we need to look at and discuss as we do further iterations of the courtroom, but having the information read out rather than just having it there to be read is something that we've picked up in a lot of our feedback as well. So it doesn't at the moment, but yes, definitely in the future, any information that appears on the screen is something that can be read out, or the option of it to be read out audibly for people.
What we were trying to do is have because when we talk to people about it, it's hard to understand really what it is. So we wanted to have a first version that we could show and we can develop, and then we have a whole list of kind of things that we'd really like to kind of make it better. And obviously there's a whole issue about funding and getting money to develop it further. So unfortunately we didn't have quite as much money as Northeastern University in terms of developing their courtroom.
Thank you both so much. I see that there are a few questions here, so we'll go ahead and go through a couple of these. First, I guess I'll call on Shalala, who has had their hand up for a bit, if you wanted to ask a question, and then we can go through some of the questions in the chat.
Hi, thank you so much. I think it's absolutely brilliant. We deal with loads and loads of litigants in person who are really scared, basically having to come to court, because the biggest call in our time is for family law. And in fact, 90% of children's cases, bearing in mind there are over 100,000 kids in the court system at the moment on private law matters, are self-represented. Magistrates' courts hear 90% of those cases. MAGs don't actually look quite like what you've set out.
No.
Clearly it's,
yeah, we've just done a kind of a version of a civil courtroom that's kind of very nondescript, but it can be developed further.
I don't doubt it. And one of the things that always winds people up, because I see them look up and look at it, I mean, on the days that we're at court, like 5 times a day, 6 times a day when we go in, is the royal insignia behind the mags, which is always really big. And I think it's quite an important thing to have there, because it's in every courtroom in England and Wales. And it does, it kind of quietens people down and makes them super scared. I think it would be brilliant, because the one question we get asked again and again and again is, what'll happen? What'll it be like? What do I do? And if they've had a VR experience, they're going to be less scared, because they've almost experienced it once already.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because you're fighting about your kids, or you know, you've got something to say about your children. I mean, that's how much more visceral does it get? Yeah,
totally. But I would really love to have a conversation with you outside of this, if you wouldn't mind, about how perhaps we could...
Oh gosh, I'd be absolutely delighted, because we also do a lot of employment work where a lot of people are self-represented, and they, again, you're going into a tribunal, which is much more informal than a court, but it's still it still looks like a courtroom. It feels like a courtroom. You've got a sort of judge, and you've got the big, you know, sort of crown insignia, and you know what I mean. It's to calm people down. It would just be, it would be incredible to have something like this on YouTube, and we can just say, I don't know if YouTube's the right platform. It shows you how ignorant I am.
YouTube isn't quite right, but there are ways and means around that, so that's not a problem.
Oh God, I love it.
It's deliberately done on a desktop, so you don't have to have a headset, because we do want to make it as useful and as accessible to as many people as possible, even though we know that there are some accessibility issues that we still need to address.
And to have it narrated by a lot with, I don't know if you're a lawyer or not.
Yeah, I am.
but to have it narrated by a lawyer saying, look, the magistrates will sit here, they will
Yes.
ask you to do this is who a magistrate is. Because most people, I ask people, are you being heard by mags or are you being heard by a judge? And they're like, I don't know, there were 3 people. You know, it literally, why would they know? They have no reason to know, just as I don't know how to change a tire. So I just think an actual experience would be, gosh, invaluable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to jump in quickly. Ian, if you have a quick question, you can go ahead and ask it. I'm just cognizant of time.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, I didn't get my mic working before.
No.
We do things with, we have a lot of people representing themselves in private law cases like you, but obviously in Scotland, we also have a scheme in Scotland where people can be lay supporters, which they can accompany an unrepresented party to court, take notes, give quiet advice and give moral support. And we do a training program for lay supporters. We already have a film that we got done within a courtroom showing some of the things, but I could see that this virtual approach would be really useful to us. The only problem I think is that courts are still, certainly in Scotland, some courts are very nice and modern and some are very old, and therefore the appearance that you've got there is not terribly close to a lot of the courtrooms that we have.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that we like to do is build, and we think that's quite easy to do, is build different versions. So within the same platform, you could have different types of courtrooms. So yeah, this is just a first iteration of something that's possible. And we've gone for something that's as straightforward as possible, but we totally accept that. But again, you know, we'd love to follow up afterwards and have a conversation about how we might be able to do.
I put my contact in the notes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Francine and John Paul. This sounds like a really incredible platform and clearly, you know, has generated a lot of interest. So I appreciate your time. It does look like there are a few more questions in the chat that we didn't get to cover live. I'd ask if it's possible if you could respond to those in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we're going to move on to our last presentation in this section. We're very pleased to welcome Ren Hoy and Hannah Canner from Lightning Reach. This tool aims to connect people in financial hardship to the support they need quickly and securely. So go ahead and take it away. Thank you so much for being here.
So I'm here to inform you basically about a little bit of information about Lightning Reach and also the portal that we've developed, which is there to help people in financial hardship to access some support from across the support ecosystem as quickly, easily and securely as possible. So a bit about us, we're a tech-for-good startup, only founded during the pandemic, so we've only been around for about 2 years now. I'm here to enable people in financial hardship to access vital support as quickly as possible. We built our online portal, which has only been up and running for about a year, to enable people to find and apply for support directly through our online platform, working in collaboration with the sector as well, so working with some partners, including the Royal British Legion, Lambeth Council, amongst some others. And over the last year, we've just sort of looked at our yearly impact figures. It's been great to see that so far we've helped facilitate over £3 million in grants to individuals in hardship to date. And we have 30,000 registered users on the portal as well. And that's gone up from about 2,000 kind of this time last year. So there's been a big increase during that time. We hope that trajectory increases this year even more as well. The problem we're looking to address really is at the moment, so I'm sure you're aware, it's quite a broad ecosystem of support that's quite fragmented at the moment. So you've got support available from grant-giving charities, benevolent funds, you've got local council support and national support. You've also got support being offered by places like banks and utility companies, but often it's quite difficult for people to be able to search for support that they're eligible for. And even if they do manage to find support, the process of applying can often be quite frustrating and complex. You might have to fill out multiple different Word forms and repeat that for every single application you wish to submit. Often when you're applying for support, they'll ask for evidence of your situation as well. So having to kind of find all your bank statements and send that multiple times over email or by post to different organisations can be quite a complex process, and often leads to people dropping out partway through. And as you can see on screen, sort of millions of pounds in support that people are eligible for is currently unclaimed, and we're trying to address that at the moment. So what's our solution? We've developed this one-stop portal to enable people to apply and find support directly through our platform. So it joins up this ecosystem. So on our platform, you've got the support available from grant making charities, local support, utility providers, national support, all in one place. So for people in financial hardship, it means they can find support they're eligible for. They answer a few simple questions at the start. They're then matched to support on the portal that they're eligible for, and in many cases they can just go on, carry across the details that they filled out as part of their original profile, just fill out a few extra bits, upload their documents directly to the portal to apply for that support scheme, and it's free for people to use in that way. And for organisations that are offering support schemes or hardship schemes, it streamlines the process for them as well, meaning they get everything in one go to process that grant application so they can get money out to people as quickly as possible as well. Some updates as to what's recently added onto the portal. So we've recently partnered with the RAF Benevolent Fund, the Royal British Legion. We have support from some occupational charities, the Teaching Staff Trust, Electrical Industries Charity, that help people in those occupations across the UK. We've also been recently working on a project to onboard local schemes from throughout the UK onto the portal. So we now have 500 local schemes available for people to match with on the portal. We're working on a region by region basis. So we've done the North East, Manchester, a few London boroughs such as Lambeth and Barking and Dagenham, Wales and Scotland as well. But we're working through and hoping to have full UK coverage in terms of local schemes on the portal by the end of this year. We also, in the last couple of weeks, have implemented a benefits calculator onto the portal as well as people being able to apply for grants, they can also check on the platform as well if they're not receiving any benefits they are eligible for. And we're also this year working on the functionality, because at the moment the portal is there for individuals to apply for, so individuals have to go on and complete the process themselves, but we realise some people through different means, whether sort of digital literacy and things like that, might not be able to complete the process themselves. So we're building in functionality this year to allow support workers to apply on behalf of their clients as well and help them through that process. So hopefully this will play and you'll be able to hear this. It's a short demo video showing the platform in action really, so hopefully you can hear this okay.
Let me walk you through a typical journey for anyone seeking support. I can find out about this free and secure online portal from a range of sources, including my local council, my support worker, my housing provider, my bank, charities, or various websites. I sign up by entering my email address. I then complete a profile which will help me identify support I may be eligible for. It's a quick and simple 3-step process. Step 1, I complete my profile. Step 2, I get matched to support. Step 3, I submit an application. I fill in a simple set of questions to access a range of support suited to my circumstances. This can be completed by myself, or if I have a support worker, they can help me through the process. This can be done on a computer, smartphone, or tablet. It takes just 10 to 15 minutes. With my profile complete, I can now see what support I've been matched with. Great! It looks like I may be eligible for a range of grants, local schemes, and tariffs, which can help me to save money and boost my income. These cover some essential household services, energy, water, internet, as well as other financial support available in my local community. These matches will be saved, so I can return to them at any time. I will get an email whenever new support options are available for me. For some providers, I can go on to make a direct application through the portal. I'm informed about how my information will be securely shared before proceeding. I can now complete the information required for this specific support scheme without repeating my details. With my consent, Lightning Reach can automatically verify my identity. If financial details are required, I have the option to connect my accounts quickly and securely through online or mobile banking. It takes a matter of minutes to complete. I select my bank and get directed to my online banking login page. I can select and connect all the accounts I have with that bank in one go. I'm able to upload any supporting documents required. With the information complete, I can now submit my application. Success! I've submitted my application. My dashboard has now been updated. From here, I can edit my profile or access further support at any time. As you can see, the process is straightforward and takes just minutes to complete. It saves lots of time searching and applying for support that I need.
So hopefully that just demonstrates how easy it is to complete the process. But also the portal itself has been developed in a modular way. So for organisations that have a hardship scheme, we realise that everyone works in different ways and has different eligibility criteria and different information that they need from people. So essentially, different options that you see on the screen, including things like ID verification, we have an open banking, which helps speed up the process in terms of administrating those grants and also helps reduce fraud. All these different options on the screens are optional, so you can choose as many of these as you want or turn off as many of these as you want as well, for organisations that are delivering that kind of support. The platform's also been developed in collaboration with the support sector. So on screen, you can see some of the logos of organisations we've been collaborating with as part of designing the platform. At the start of the process 2 years ago, before the platform was even developed, Lightning Reach set up a social innovation council. This included membership bodies such as the Association of Charitable Organisations, which is actually my previous employer, and other organisations you see on the screen. And Lightning Reach would meet with them every 2 weeks as the portal was being developed, to show their design plans, show their ideas for the core questions you saw at the start of that process that were going to be asked by users, just to make sure it was really being developed with both organisations that provide support and also end users in mind as well. And we continue to interview and speak regularly with end users that themselves facing financial hardship and have used the portal themselves to get their feedback, to feed into the continual improvement of the portal as well. I won't go into too much detail because I believe these slides are probably being shared. This is just to kind of reiterate the key benefits of each different group. So for people in financial hardship, it means they can quickly see and apply for a personalised range of support they're eligible for without having to repeat information, repeat their stories. They can do so at a time that suits them. They don't have to rely on kind of helplines being open at certain times. They can really be empowered to take control of the process, do it all online without needing to necessarily speak to anyone and ask for help. For organisations offering support, really streamlining the process, minimising risk of fraud so they can get that support out to people quicker. And for those who are referring or signposting people for support, we're aiming to be that one place. So rather than having to have lists of lots of different places and needing to spend lots of time thinking about where you need to signpost someone to, you can just give them a link to our portal and they'll then be able to take that forward themselves and be able to see support from across the ecosystem available to them. Just some quotes on the screen as well. It's really important that we've got feedback back from our users, both in terms of end users and the partners that we work with. We're really pleased in particular to see we have a 94% satisfaction rate on the portal, but also seeing comments such as, this has been the easiest application I've ever had to do. I was able to do it within minutes and in the same day. It reduced my stress. It's just been fantastic to see. This will be included in the pack because of time. I won't go into too much detail, but this is just a nice case study we had from a veteran who was unfortunately facing homelessness, who applied for a crisis grant with the Royal British Legion that was being administrated through the portal, but was also able to apply for a grant from the RAF Benevolent Fund because he saw that was flagged up to him when he started filling out his details on the portal, and also a social tariff as well, so he could save money on his bills. It's just a nice story showing someone might come on for one reason but actually realise there's more support options available to them as well. So how can you get involved? Really, it's if you come across people in your work that are facing financial hardship and are struggling during the cost of living crisis with things like their bills and stuff and everyday living costs, please do refer them to the portal. It's completely free to signpost, free for people to use. It will help them access a wide variety of support. We can even also provide customer referral links. So if you were interested in featuring the portal on your website or in a newsletter, we can send you a unique link. That way we can track who's come and signed up to the portal from you, who's sent an application, which is just really interesting to see. And also if you yourself you have a hardship fund, or if you know organisations in your area that do, please point them in our direction as well. We're really trying to build up that amount of support on the portal where people can apply easily just using the portal itself. So please do point them in our direction as well. It'd be great to speak to them about getting their support onto the portal as well. So I'll post in the chat a feedback form that will actually let you request one of those unique referral links and also any signposting copy or anything else that you need from us on that form. So I'll post that into the chat. Please do get in touch if you have any questions. My details are on the slides as well. And just please start signposting people if you think it would be useful for the sort of people that you're working with at the moment. Thanks very much. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I'm just looking at the time and I'm wary of making sure we get to everybody. So there's a few questions in the chat about the regional scope and some questions about the platform. If you'd be able to answer those in the chat directly, that would be great. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Just so we make sure we have time for our next presenter. But this looks like a really incredible platform, and it looks like we're getting some great feedback in the chat as well. So thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you for having me. That's great.
So I guess we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. And I'd like to introduce Tracy Jayaten, who will be giving an update on the launch of Justice Lab, which is a policy and research center using data and evidence to tackle the most pressing problems facing the justice system today. So Tracy, thank you so much for being here.
So hi everyone, I'm Tracy. I'm the Community Data Principal at Justice Lab, which is a special initiative of the Legal Education Foundation. And I'm going to assume that mostly everyone on this call knows who the Legal Education Foundation is, so I won't go into that. And also I have a very slow computer, so sometimes it takes me a little while to move things on with slides. Yeah, great. So, moved too far along. So yes, 2 weeks ago we had our parliamentary showcase. As such, we sort of launched the Justice Lab, although the Justice Lab has been around for a little while now. It's just we sort of got a new website and we're more public, and so we're able to kind of share more about the work that we've done. But it has been developed by Dr. Natalie Byram, she's the Director of Research at the Legal Education Foundation and also the Director of Justice Lab. The whole reason why the Legal Education Foundation set up Justice Lab was really they wanted to kind of highlight and address the absence of data and what happens to people within the justice system and the poor evidence base that often underpins interventions and services that are being run in the justice system. So as I said, while this public launch was just 2 weeks ago, we've been doing it for a couple of years now, and so we thought it'd be useful just to kind of share with this group the work that we do, our initiatives that we're interested in, and some of the projects that we've worked on. Okay, so we're a policy and research centre. Our vision is that we work towards an evidence-based justice system that's fair, open and efficient for everyone that needs it. And we have 4 strategic priority areas, and they are around data, influence, research and community. So with data, we advise policymakers, judges and practitioners in all areas of data, from strategy to responsible data use. We work on improving the coverage, quality and consistency of administrative data held by the justice system agencies. We advise organisations on their approaches to data governance, infrastructure and strategy. We really want to work to ensure that people's voices are heard in how we share and collect data about the justice system. We commission and fund technical research to explore opportunities and risks posed by the use of AI and data-driven technologies in the justice system. And we develop and test and refine our language, continually learning for how we talk about justice data to increase understanding of what justice data is and why justice data matters. So example, quickly, a couple of examples of work that we've commissioned. We have worked with the Centre for Public Data. This is an organisation that works to sort of strengthen data, all public data across the public sector. And what they were able to see was that 40% of questions directed to justice ministers, this is in 2019, 2020, could not be answered due to lack of data. So that really highlights the fact that, you know, we're making decisions and we don't have the information that kind of really can support the kind of most effective decision making that we can have. So Centre for Public Data, we've commissioned them and they are doing doing a whole series of work exploring gaps across the justice system. They're looking at sort of unrepresented defendants and what we don't know about them, looking at conditional bail, looking at custodial remands, and a report is going to be published in the next month or so about providing an overall picture about the things that we don't know. Sorry for slow computer. This again is another project that we've done. We worked with Ipsos Mori, and this was really to sort of highlight the amount of justice data that's been released. Some of you will know that data can be bulk downloaded from the Find Case Law Service, and so we had some questions about that. We were really sort of strong advocates of releasing more of this data. But at the same time, we're really keen to kind of understand, what do the public think about this? Do they feel comfortable with this data being shared? Some of this data, as we all know, can be quite sensitive as well. So we commissioned Ipsos Mori. They ran a nationally representative poll. And we found sort of 80% of respondents said there should be limits and controls on who can use information from court records and how they can use it. We found a high proportion of the majority of people that we spoke to, again, were concerned about how data could be used by commercial organisations to make profit for. So it really shows the importance of engaging the public with some of the justice data work that's taking place, and it's a program of work that we're seeking to kind of continue to how to bring public engagement into the use of justice data. Our next sort of priority area is about research, and in this we undertake, commission and we promote robust research into the most pressing issues facing the UK justice system. We do this by commissioning research to address evidence gaps. We scan methodological advances in other areas of social policy and international legal research to identify, explain and test new approaches to conducting research. And we invest in tools that support more research within the sector. So an example of this project is that we're working with a law centre, and we've funded research organisations called Policy and Practice. And what they're doing is they're looking at the administrative data from local authorities, that's largely benefits data, and we're exploring whether we can use this data to understand the outcomes of people who've received legal advice compared to those that haven't received legal advice, using the data that's available from benefits and data held by local authorities. And we're also working alongside that sort of more quantitative project and doing some qualitative research to better understand outcomes as well. Our third priority area is about influence, because we don't want to be a research policy centre that just puts out research and it doesn't go anywhere. We often do a lot of public engagement. We respond to official consultations, give evidence to parliamentary committees and convene events and workshops. We're represented on several justice groups and committees, for example, Civil Justice Council, Administrative Justice Council, Civil Justice Council Future Groups, Ministry of Justice, Shadow Senior Data Governance Panel. We publish reports, engage media, speak at legal conferences, and most importantly as well is that we really want to collaborate and work with organisations that are really interested in this space. So I'm really keen to kind of speak to many of you that are here that are interested in the work programmes that we are also working on. An example of our a project that we're working under the influence priority is about the Victims Bill. So some of you might be aware that there's a draft Victims Bill that's currently being developed, and we submitted a response to that, because one of the key provisions within this bill is they're set to improve the collection of data to monitor compliance with the Victims Code, and this is really important to us. We really want to have better data about victims in the justice system, and there's just not enough known about them. So we're actually working with a range of victim organisations to identify the changes to data collection and governance that's required to improve the experience of victims. We're working to gather a bank of stories and case studies to demonstrate the impact of current failures. And we're exploring opportunities to collaborate further with individuals and groups involved in the workshop to lobby for changes in the draft bill. So with that, do get in touch if you would like to be involved or you'd like to know more about that work. And then the last sort of priority area that we work on is about community, and that's the area that I largely lead. And this is really focused about how we develop, share and support the collection and responsible use of data and skills in the justice sector for frontline organisations, for academics, for people that are really caring and working to improve how we support people going through the justice system. So with this, we work with frontline organisations across the justice sector to build skills, capacity and networks needed to use data. We don't want to replicate anything that's going on. We want to work alongside organisations in doing this work. So we're not here to take over anything, but to collaborate and kind of amplify brilliant work that's going on. For example, the Network for Justice. We create tailored resources and tools. We put that all on our website. That's all going to be free and open for anyone to use. We identify and connect organisations nationally and internationally to share knowledge, create peer networks and collaborate on projects. And we intend and organise collaborative events with other organisations as well. So an example of this work is a project that I've developed called Data Cohorts. This is going to be upcoming, and hopefully I'll get this out in the next month. But we'll be commissioning a data cohort as such, 3 to 5 frontline organisations. We've chosen to start in Greater Manchester and looking at one specific area of law around housing. And what we want to do is work with frontline organisations and partner with data practitioners to provide support that increases organisations to build their data maturity, that's their capacity and skills, to increase organisations' capacity to learn about the data that they collect, and to create the groundwork for developing standards that can be reused by other organisations within the access to justice sector to enable better data sharing across partners. We've started a sort of smaller pilot of this work, working with Justice Together initiative and one of their programs of funding in the Northeast, working with Northeast Law Centre. We've got lots of interesting findings coming out of that, and we will make some of this a lot of the work sort of open for others to learn from as well. So that's been a quick fire nutshell. I could talk lots more and provide lots more projects, but hopefully this gives you a bit of a flavour about the research priority areas that we are working on, the types of organisations we want to work with and partner with and hear from, and definitely that we want to sort of collaborate and work alongside a lot of the brilliant work that's already taken place in the sector. For more information, you can look at our website, you can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn. I've put in an organisation email just in case it's either me or my director or others that you might want to get in contact with if you had any questions. But very happy to take questions now with any remaining time or to follow up afterwards.
Thank you so much, Tracy. That was a really interesting presentation and just really incredible to hear about the work that you're doing. And it seems like we're getting some really good feedback from that in the chat as well. I see a question here from Wendy Rainbow about, is there any scope to extend the admin data to other legal advice obligations? For example, the impact of families receiving legal advice around special educational needs and poor legal advice decision-making.
Yeah, when we said admin data, we're talking about the whole broad spectrum as such. We're very, very ambitious sort of team that we've got here. So it's very much about what's sort of the present issue. So we're quite reactive as such. So in case if there's something that's quite immediate and pressing and you'd want us to work on, then would certainly be interested to kind of have a chat and look at that.
I'll be in touch, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take one more question from Raj, who has her hand raised. And then if anyone else has questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or, response there.
Thank you. Tracy, this is really exciting. My question, well, I have two questions. I'll ask one and then I think it might be better for you to answer the other one because I feel like it's part of a bigger debate. What I'd like to ask is, how do you see yourself working with technologists in relation to your focus areas? And the one I'd kind of like you to perhaps answer, because it's a bit more broader, is, there's a big debate going on at the moment within the sort of the technology space around ethics and responsibility and the lack of democratic discourse and apparatus when thinking about the role of technology within communities, and the real-time questions it's been bringing up about justice right now. So I'd really like to know, where is Justice Lab? Where's your thinking around that space at the moment, given there seems to be a gap around that from a public policy, social policy, legal justice perspective? So yeah, that feels like a big question. So you don't have to answer that right now, but I'd love to get your thoughts around that and potentially connect over that as well. Thank you.
Certainly. So I guess reactively, I am pro-technology. My background is to data science. I worked for an organisation previously called DataKind UK, which is all about bringing technology in there. But I'm also pro privacy as well, the fact that actually we do need to uphold people's rights to privacy, and we need to think very carefully about how we can apply technology. Technology is not a panacea for solving every kind of problem that there is. The importance of human above technology is really key as well. So I embrace technologists that are trying to be responsible, that want to kind of answer hard questions, to think ethically about how data can be used, and not sort of looking at just trying to exploit a system where it can be seen as, oh, this might be an easy way to kind of make a quick buck. So that's personally how I reflect in terms of responsible technologists. Yes, those that just say technology is the answer for everything, it's not as simple as that, and I'd be querying if you come to me with that type of attitude.
Great, thank you so much. And people can feel free to continue to ask questions in the chat, but we're going to just move on to our last section here on upskilling frontline staff. And before we do, I'm just going to hand it over to Martha to say a few words about that.
Thanks so much, Emmeline. I just wanted to give a bit of context to this and where our focus on this section is coming from. It's a bit of a kind of noticed trend and change. I mean, the pandemic provided kind of quite a brutal course, I think, in our learning what our own technical skills were versus what they needed to be in some scenarios versus what we had on hand at the time. And we did a session on blended delivery models as part of our insights and learning sessions last July, which really highlighted the changing and challenging nature of staffing the development of innovative and tech solutions as frontline organizations. We saw that a lot of people are kind of just relying on tech savvy people within their own organizations to take up the baton and really run with it for the benefit of their organization. But we know that we can't always rely on that happy chance of intersecting skills between frontline staff who are already pushed to the limit in terms of what they're doing and delivering at the front line to always and even sometimes at all, also support our kind of use of technology journey. So I really wanted to do this session as a bit of a kind of initial exploration to understand what specialist support is on offer to us as frontline organisations, how do we support our frontline staff to frequently take up these kind of roles in terms of driving work in the innovative and just technology space forward, and also to maybe start conversations about how we can grow as more confident consumers of consultancy and commission support in this space as well, because for many organizations, having this support in-house and developing that is not always an option. So to kickstart our discussion, really delighted to welcome back Dan Such, who's a director at CAST, to talk through some of the opportunities available and some of the other thinking around these issues too. Dan, over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you, everyone. It's lovely to be here. I'll just wait to have permission to share my screen, but in the meantime, in the chat box is a link to the presentation that contains just lots and lots and lots of links to all sorts of support that's available. I'm going to run through the slide deck really quickly to keep us on time, but please do go into that the link there and have a look at the links at leisure. If they don't make enough sense to you, please let me know. In time-honored tradition, can you just wave to me if you can now see a slide in front of you? Wonderful, thank you. I'll jump on. So the very briefest of introductions. CAST, we're a charity. We were set up to support other social organisations to figure out how best to use digital within their work and to respond to how people are using digital in our world. More than that, we're here to help charities and civil society have a greater voice and presence in the sorts of technologies that we're using within our sector and beyond. I'm going to skip over, if my slides were possibly, a few of these. But one of the main places I want to introduce you to is something called Catalyst. Catalyst is a network of 500 different digital agencies, all committed to kind of working with charities and social sector organisations. It's a network of 12 different proactive funders, supported about 20,000 charities over the past 2 years. So by providing lots of open tools, resources, support, training, as well as sometimes passing on funding. I'm going to share lots of the resources that come from Catalyst, so to help think about kind of things that are available to you individually. So the first is something called Digital Candle. It's essentially free advice from expert technologists, designers, data experts, who will just have a one-to-one phone call with you to help you figure out a problem you're trying to address. Whether it's something really, really specific, like how do we use AdWords better to advertise our services to the right people, or something really big, like how do we even begin to think about digital? There are people there who are volunteering their time to provide support to our sector. It's amazing. There are hundreds of people who are there willing to provide advice. So it's worth just looking at Digital Candle through the link that's in the chat to just arrange as many calls as you want. So if you don't have that expertise in-house, there's a network of people externally who are there to help you. If you're looking for something more than that, though, there's a network called Dovetail, which is a collection of agencies that have demonstrated how well they work with civil society organisations. And this network is available if you're looking for someone to help you do some work. This is the only one that's normally in a paid capacity, so it's a free directory to use, but you'll then often end up with an agency that suits you and works well with you, but they'll be looking for paid work. It was developed with charities with the criteria that they use to find the right partner. So if you're looking for an agency to help you in any work, whether you're applying for funding, you've just got some funding, that's the first port of call. To find trusted people that that we have worked with for years and who are kind of part of this growing network. But within them, there's kind of specific support for individuals within the organisation. So whole sets of seminars and training events, just kind of 4 in front of us, like how do you write well, how do you have a kind of social media strategy, all the way through to how do you do kind of really good user research design services. There are these kind of free websites, so free webinars and trainings that's available. There are some more in-depth ones that help you think about service design and developing digital services for the first time if you haven't done that, or as a refresher course. Again, free to come up for your staff or for you to join. And there are some tools that are falling out from this. There's something called the Digital Skills Framework that was developed by the Scouts along with CAST, and is now freely available to any other charity who want to go through, want to identify the sorts of skills they want their workforce to develop. And whether your workforce is 2 other people, or whether you're the Scouts and you connect to hundreds of thousands of people, at the moment, this is being tested with 5 other charities to make sure it really replicates easily in other charities. But as with all of this stuff, it's free and open source because the charities who we work with are committing to making it more useful, not just for themselves, but for other organisations too. There's a theme that's going to run through all of this. free access to stuff, because the charities who have done it have been generous in ensuring others can benefit from it too. The same goes from something called DigiSafe, which is like how do we ensure really best practice in safeguarding online, created with some amazing charities kind of working together to create that as a set of resources. But the other thing we notice within the sector is beyond kind of resources and training, very often the people who are responsible for digital within a charity or a social sector organisation feel a bit lonely because they're very often the only one. So we're spending lots of time focused on how we can provide the support to those individuals beyond their existing organisation. So having trusted peers around them. Coffee Connections is just a way for those people just to have a virtual chat with someone else who's in a similar boat. It really is just arrange a call with someone else in another organisation who's doing something similar and just begin to grow your network and find some peer support. But there's also some more specific support, such as the Agencies for Good Slack channel, where you can go and find other people who are leading this work, whether you're having conversations with agencies and trying to kind of figure out how best to work with them, whether you're doing a piece of work internally and you just want some more support. There's this growing network of people who are there to find support. Again, if you want to find the links to all of this, it's in the slide deck there. I'm going to end with kind of 2 slides to just kind of go through. If you go to the Catalyst website, you'll see there are pages and pages and pages of links to different types of support available. Some of it is focused specifically on helping individuals within social organisations to develop their work and their capacity and their skills. Some of it is recognising that's not always the best place, so it focuses on how to best find the right support that is outside of your organisations. We use these tools when we need kind of support around digital too, despite being a digital first charity. But there's loads from training, self-paced learning, kind of toolkits and support, all the way through to connecting with peers. I want to end kind of really briefly with kind of one of the reasons all of this stuff is open and available, partly of course because of our lovely generous funders, is that we use an open IP approach, which means that everything that we create is open and freely available to others. And it's something that has meant that during the pandemic, we were able to create 750 new assets that are now being reused by other charities. I'll link to a slide in a second by Hyde Housing. They were able to create a universal credit checking tool that's now being accessed and used by over 1 million people. And it's free for other charities to rebadge and reuse. And they've now evolved it into a cost of living tool, again, that's free for other social organisations to pick up and rebadge and use with your clients or your community. But this open working is kind of where we're really focused. Like, how can we continue to put more effort into creating tools that support us all to address systems in a way that's shared between us? So there's one other service I'd like to share, which is called the Space, which is if you're looking for support as you're beginning to do some digital work, there's a team of people who are at the end of an email or a query form who will provide you direct support to help you find things that already exist, to find hopefully things that are created by and with our sector so that we can reuse them, which reduces the cost of doing it ourselves. But it also means we can kind of stand on the shoulders of all the other giants in the sector. So the Space for Reuse is a place where you can find more support, specifically as you're looking for new things to help you achieve your missions. One of the things that's allowed that for those who are involved in kind of funding and passing on funding, we've also been able to create a whole set of open access policy templates, which are like how, if you give funding, you can ask your grantees or your partners to open source their stuff too, so that others from the sector can benefit from it. And then finally, with all of those things that we're kind of looking to to share and provide more access to, we're also still trying to figure out the best place where we can put our time to creating new tools and support. We spent a lot of time recently focused on the age-old challenge of referrals and triage. And we're looking in the long term to think about, can we create an open source free sector-owned set of tools that anyone can access and use to help with this age-old problem of network-based triage or organisation triage and referrals. If you see triage and referrals as a problem that you're facing, you have a solution to that, or you're just interested in kind of helping us, or you're working on that as a challenge, I would be really grateful if you got in touch. So, in brief, loads of resources available from this incredible network of charities and social sector organisations. Please dive into the links. If any of them don't make sense, please get in touch with me and I'll put my email address in the chat. And specifically around referrals and triage, if you're working in that space or you know that as a problem, please get in touch and we'll see if we can solve that one together. Thank you very much.
So yeah, I'll just wrap up from here. Thanks so much to all our amazing contributors today. Another really, really useful session. Thank you for sharing your learnings and your experiences through this group with the rest of our community. And thanks to everyone who contributed as well via the chat function. We'll be sure to do some follow-up on that. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, the 8th of June at the same time from 10 to 11:30 a.m. You can register for that session and all future sessions using the same registration link as the session for today, but we'll also recirculate that. So no worries about that. And as ever, this group remains open to anyone who'd like to join, so please do feel free to share learnings and resources from this group widely, but also to pass this on to anyone in organisations who's interested in doing work in this area. It would be great to involve them in this as well. But yeah, otherwise, thank you so much everyone for coming. Thanks Emmeline for hosting us, and we'll speak to you soon. Have a good rest of your week. Bye guys.
Bye everyone. Thank you so much again for being here.